And Rob Manfred, the Commissioner of Baseball, joins us now. Mr. Commissioner, did you watch the NBA Finals yesterday?
I watched baseball until the 4-minute and 50-second spot, and I then watched the last 4 minutes of the game. Yep.
Now,
yep.
What, do you get jealous as a commissioner that a game, Don just said, peaked at $44 million? And do you think, can my World Series do that one day again?
No, honestly, especially the NBA, we got crossover ownership. Commissioner Silver's been great to me. I wish them all the luck in the world. I'm glad they got their 7 games, and I'm glad they got a good rating. I think if it's good for sports, it's good for all sports.
And I think one of the things, Commissioner, is that it's such a star-driven sport, and baseball has its stars, but just the game is structured differently, right? I mean, a basketball player can play 45 or 48 minutes, where a baseball player can only catch what's hit to him and get his 4 at bats. So it's really hard to kind of put them on the pedestal that they can in the NBA.
It's interesting. We try to be quantitative about making decisions about the game and about the business surrounding the game. And, you make a great point. The amount of time that an NBA player is visible during a telecast is a significant multiple of the amount of time any player other than the pitcher is visible in a baseball broadcast. It's just the different nature of the sport. Each sport has its own strengths and appeals, and we think we have a great product and can compete with anybody.
Now, one thing that you've been doing, I think it's a great idea, Rob, is that you're pushing the youth initiative, and today you had an announcement with Harlem RBI, which kind of goes toward that, right?
Right. I mean, look, Harlem RBI, our RBI program is kind of the foundation of our youth efforts, right? It's a grassroots in the underserved areas, giving kids a chance to play the game. And of all of, we got some great RBI programs out there, but Harlem RBI has done an absolutely phenomenal job. I mean, they teach the game the right way. They focus on baseball values, and, they really are focused on education, too, with the charter school that they have up there.
What do some of the kids say about the game of baseball? Is there dialogue to why maybe they don't like it as much as the other sports, or just some of the concerns they have about choosing to play baseball over the other sports?
Well, I think one of the issues that I think we struggle with, particularly when we talk to the youngest kids, is just action and holding their attention. And so one of the things that we're focused on is we have a great relationship with the Positive Coaching Alliance, making sure that people that are coaching the game know how to run a practice in a way that holds kids' attention is really important. And we're trying to work with some great partners in the youth space to make sure that we do that.
You know what makes me nervous, Rob, and you know how I love the game, it's my favorite game, is that when you become a professional baseball player, most professional baseball players have to spend 3 or 4 years riding a bus in the minor leagues. In every other sport, except for hockey, you go right into the professionals. I don't know if there's any way to solve that.
Well, look, there's always going to be minor league baseball. I do think that the length of time that as college programs continue to improve, and, our reliance on the colleges is much greater than it was 20 years ago. Obviously, college players have a shorter go in the minor leagues, and the makeup for the time in the minor leagues is that the average career length in baseball is way longer.
Right.
And for better or for worse, the financial opportunities in baseball are the best because of the prevalence of guaranteed contracts.
Do you believe that, remember, we always bring up Bo Jackson, right? And there were other players, Deion Sanders, that could play football and they could play baseball. That with some of the issues we've seen with concussions in the NFL and in football in general, Commissioner, will you start to see, do you believe, more parents wanting their kids to choose baseball over football, or that athletes who can play both may veer more towards baseball because of the health issues, concerns in football?
Well, all I can tell you on that point is this. One of the concerns and one of the issues that parents raise with us in terms of finding baseball appealing is the fact that it is a very safe sport. And we do think that message is an important one. The youth space is competitive. Everybody's out there competing for kids to play their game. And one of the reasons that we focused on safety at the big league level in terms of the catcher rule, the second base rule, is, we do have a safe sport, and that's an advantage for baseball.
Cleveland wins a title. Tampa Bay won. Pittsburgh won a title in hockey. Denver wins a title. That's not a real small market. And Kansas City in baseball. Why are small markets able to now exert excellence and win championships, you think?
Well, I think it varies a little bit in each sport, but I think the fundamentals are this, Michael. You know, the key thing in creating and negotiating over your economic system with your Players Association is to promote competitive balance. And interestingly, competitive balance is a topic that everybody at the table can agree on when you're negotiating with players, right? Because players want to play places where they have a chance to win. And you know, some players are going to play in those smaller markets. It's important to them to have a system that allows them to win. I think in our game, I think it is a combination of some of the economic reforms that came in under Commissioner Selig's leadership, you know, the revenue sharing, the competitive balance tax. But I think the other thing that's going on is our game's young right now. Young players really matter, and the entry-level system, particularly the changes we made in the draft the last time around, have been really important, really important.
I wanted to throw some actual issues currently with the game, Rob. We got into some nice arguments with our fans about the DH, you know, with full-time interleague play and the disadvantage that the American League has in the National League ballpark. And with a lot of kids loving offense and maybe not want to see a pitcher bat, will we see the day where the DH will be in the National League?
Look, I think that the status quo is the most likely outcome, and I'll give you a couple of reasons for it. Number one, you know, our leagues are important competitive devices still to us. You know, you play up through the National League to get to the World Series, play up through the American League, and now that, you know, our central operations are combined, they're out, the old league offices are gone, the principal differentiator between those two leagues is the DH, no DH, and I think that is really, really important to us. Secondly, you know, pitchers hitting is actually a very interesting topic to people. People are fascinated by good hitting pitchers, and I don't see the National League teams wanting to give that up.
National League teams don't. I mean, but we talk about like getting the young person who really likes offense and likes excitement. I mean, most pitchers stink as hitters, Rob. They do. I mean, occasionally when Bartolo Colon hits a home run, everybody gets excited, but for the most part, pitchers hit like 180.
There's no question it's a different game, that the pitcher hitting does change things. But, you know, I really do not sense any sentiment for changing the rules and changing the rules in the direction of uniformity of having the DH.
All right, will we see at least some modified home run derby in the All-Star game involving the pitchers?
I don't know about that, to tell you the truth. I know there's been a lot of talk about it. You know, it's a little different. We really like the time format that we went to this year. I'm not sure clubs are going to be crazy about pitchers hitting on a clock where they're trying to hit quickly, going through multiple rounds. The risk of injury is pretty significant there, and we're going to go slow on that one. I want to make the last thing we want to do is have a pitcher get hurt in a home run derby. That would not be a good outcome for us.
Talking with Rob Manfred in today's Inside Pitch Report. Today's Inside Pitch brought to you by Kettle One Vodka, proud sponsor of the New York Yankees. Okay, so how's the CBA negotiations going? Do you think that this will be done before there's an 11th hour?
I think the negotiations have gone well so far. You know, Tony Clark and Dan Hallam and our bargaining committee have devoted a ton of time to making sure that we got all the issues out on the table early. They've done a fantastic job at that. And I continue to believe that we'll find a way to make an agreement without any last-minute hysteria.
Is it weird, though, Rob? From what I know, I mean, when Selig was the commissioner, you were the guy doing the negotiating. Is it hard for you to step back and let somebody else do it now, and you just, you know, you kind of, you know, maneuvering from the outside?
It is hard. It is hard. I know this probably makes me a little different than most everyone in the world. I actually enjoy the process. I always have. And, you know, it does feel funny not to be involved at this early stage, but there will come a time in the negotiations when I will be at the table, and I hope it's at a point in time that I can help get to an agreement.
From what I hear, Rob, a lot of teams don't like the qualifying offer, and they think that, and some players think that it slows down their movement in free agency. Obviously, there's some teams in this town that don't like the luxury tax threshold. Is any of that going to change, you think?
Look, I don't want to get into the individual issues, Michael. I have found and learned this lesson painfully back in the 90s. The more you talk about the issues publicly, the harder it is to resolve them privately. So I'm going to stay off the substance for now.
Okay.
Scheduling, Rob, we've seen situations. We know the Sunday Night Baseball dilemma with the scheduling, but we saw the Angels last week in the Bronx on a Thursday, play a Friday night game back in Anaheim. Just recently, the Pirates were at Citi Field, played a day game in Chicago the next day. Why aren't we seeing more of these teams on getaway day playing in the afternoon? Because I think it does affect some of these teams the next day when they have to travel and a short turnaround.
I think that this is an issue that'll get a lot of conversation at the table. A lot of teams are accommodating on getaway days. Other teams, at least in particular series, there's reasons that the games sell way better at night, and it's about economics. But it is a topic that we're looking hard at. We have more and more focus on how demanding the 162 and 183 days is.
How distressing is it for you, Rob, to have the Major League Baseball offices are here in New York to know the Comcast Yes situation? Is that something that the commissioner could step in on?
It's a really frustrating area when there's not distribution. I mean, obviously, we have the Comcast Yes situation. We have the situation in L.A. that's persisted for a very long time. We want our fans to have access to the games. Unfortunately, in those negotiations, we don't have a seat at the table. It's between the rights holder, the RSN, Yes in this case, and Comcast. And, we do try to have conversations with the involved parties to encourage them to move along, but we really don't have a seat at the table.
Another conversation that we have, Rob, because we talk a lot of baseball, the unwritten rules. Mm-hmm. Players policing themselves. It just seems like there's what the players believe is right, and then there's what baseball looks at is right. And what happened with Syndergaard getting thrown out without any warning, or the Batista fight, I mean, where does baseball stand on allowing players to police themselves but not having the bench-clearing brawls and things getting out of hand either?
Well, I think the unwritten rules are something that the players have largely controlled. They evolve over time as generations change, and that's going to continue to happen. I think that, without getting into any individual situation, we try to issue discipline in those situations where we feel that it's necessary in order to prevent the situation from escalating the next time the teams are together or in that game. Now, are we right every single time? Can you make an argument that, Syndergaard shouldn't have gone when he did? Yeah, you can. But, that is the human part of the game. People are going to make judgments in those situations. When you look back at them, once in a while you're going to say, maybe that wasn't right.
Now, the other thing that I find interesting is how do you feel about this? That when that fight, that Ranger Blue Jay fight took place, Rob, the baseball app sent out the video. I mean, it does sell the game in a way. It is entertaining. So how do you stand as commissioner of the sport, not wanting those things to escalate, but also realizing that when they do, it gets a lot more eyeballs to the table for your sport?
I'm going to play into your wheelhouse here on this one. One of the things that we've always done with MLB.com is respected their journalistic independence. Mm-hmm. What happens with the content on, I have never, what have I had the job, 19 months, 18 months, whatever it is. I've never had a conversation with anybody at MLB.com about what they put out there. We want them to operate independently of the commissioner's office and cover the game the way that they think the game should be covered. Mm-hmm. So, occasionally sometimes they say stuff I don't like that much, but, that's their prerogative.
All right, so hockey's going to have a team in Vegas. It looks like Al Davis' son, Mark, is trying to negotiate to bring the Raiders there. Will we ever see a baseball team in Vegas?
I think you can't go to Vegas because there are casinos there. We passed that by a long time ago, right? There's casinos all over the place.
Right.
I see Las Vegas as a viable alternative. I would not disqualify it just because of the gambling issue.
Do you believe, Rob, you can never admit it, you can't root as a commissioner, but would it be the greatest thing in the world for the Cubs to be in the World Series the way they're going right now?
Here's the way I like to dance around that issue, and I don't like to dance that much, Michael. I think you know that. Look, the Cubs are a great story for us. I mean, I think that for us, the way that we get the most following in the postseason is that we have an exciting story that builds through the year, and it's a story that's appealing to fans even if their particular team drops out. And I think the Cubs have the potential to be one of those stories.
Very nice two-step. Beautifully done. Very nice dance. All right, so finally, are you happy with the replay and the challenges? Again, sometimes it seems like it takes an awful long time, Rob.
Tale of two cities on that one. The time of the challenges is actually down a little bit this year. The average time, and that's a good thing. There are two issues that are of concern to me. The outliers, the 4-minute ones. There's no reason for that. If it takes 4 minutes, forget it and move on. I mean, and we do need to work on that one. And, the number of challenges is actually up this year, and we're really monitoring that closely. I think when we started this, we understood that there was going to be a period of time when we're going to have to make adjustments to the system, and both of those issues, the really long replay and the number of replays, are something we're watching this year, and it'll be something we'll have a lot of conversation about in the offseason.
Now, I have a great idea for you, Rob. You haven't asked me, but I'm going to help you out because, I love the game, all right? Here's the way you should do the challenge next year. If you think that the umpire got rather than the manager consistently turning his back, waiting to see what they see on the replay, you challenge it in real time. You think they're wrong, challenge it right away. It makes it almost like a game of chicken. Let's see. If you really think they're wrong, challenge it without looking at a replay.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. It is an interesting idea, and that downtime when the manager's waiting for his video guy to give him input is, one of the parts of the process that people don't like. And, as I said, we will continue to tinker with that process to make it as fast as possible. I do, however, continue to believe that replay is responsive to a very fundamental desire to get calls correct.
I agree. I'm here as a resource, Rob, whenever you need me.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that.
All right, have a good day.
Thank you so much.
You too. Thanks so much, guys.